Denver's Central Station buzzed like any ordinary morning. Voices echoing, footsteps rushing, sunlight sliding across polished floors. In the middle of the crowd, two police German shepherds, Rex and Shadow, suddenly froze. Their ears twitched, their eyes locked on a single point ahead. There stood a little girl in a bright red coat, holding the hand of a woman in black. To everyone else, she looked shy and quiet. But to the K9 partners, something was trembling inside her silence. Her tiny fingers tapped 5 times on the woman's back. Pause, then 5 more. A quiet signal invisible to the rushing world. But not to Rex and Shadow. Rex pulled forward. Shadow lowered his stance beside him, refusing to move on. Officer Sarah tried to steady them, unaware the truth ahead would shatter the station's calm. What these two K9s were about to uncover would leave everyone frozen. Before we begin, hit like, share, and tell us where you're watching from. Your support keeps these stories alive. The winter morning lay heavy over Denver like a sheet of frosted glass, its pale sun struggling to break through a sky smudged with steel-blue clouds. A thin crust of last night's snow clung stubbornly to the streets outside Union Station, and a breath of cold wind chased travelers through the doors in hurried waves. Inside, the hall was alive with the noise of rolling suitcases, echoing announcements, and the restless shuffle of commuters wrapped in coats of every color. In that vibrant chaos, Officer Sarah Miller moved with practiced calm, her boots tapping softly over the polished floor. At 32, she carried herself with the posture of someone who had long accepted the weight of responsibility. Tall and slender, with ash-brown hair tied into a low ponytail and cheeks marked by the faintest freckles, her presence was both steady and quietly stern. Years ago, she had lost her younger brother in a hit-and-run that was never solved, and since then a protective instinct had settled deep in her chest, giving her a gentle firmness, especially toward children. She wasn't unkind, just unyielding when danger lurked. Walking at her sides were her partners, Rex and Shadow, two German shepherds trained for K9 duty. Rex, the older of the pair at 6 years old, carried a noble, broad-headed look, his amber eyes sharp with instinct. His fur mixed rich black and tan shades, and the faint graying around his muzzle made him appear wise, almost contemplative. Shadow, a 4-year-old with a deeper black coat and a slimmer, athletic build, was quicker, more reactive, and famously food-motivated. Both wore dark tactical K9 vests marked with the word police, and their ears flicked with every echo in the station. Sarah glanced down at them with a half-smile and tapped the side of Rex's neck. "If you two behave until the end of the shift," she murmured, "someone might get an extra biscuit." Rex snorted as if unimpressed by bribes, while Shadow cast a longing look toward a nearby snack stall, tail giving one hopeful twitch. For a moment, the morning felt ordinary, just another patrol through Denver's busiest station. But ordinary rarely lasted long in this city. Through the shifting crowd, Sarah's gaze caught the sight of a woman in a long black coat, moving briskly while guiding 3 children through the stream of commuters. The woman appeared in her late 30s, with dark hair pulled into a tight bun and a posture that was rigid rather than parental. Her face bore the kind of neutral pleasantness that felt rehearsed, not lived, a softness stretched too tightly over something harder beneath. She kept her grip firm on the children, almost too firm, steering them like luggage rather than little lives. Among the 3, one stood out immediately, a little girl in a bright red coat, no older than 8. Her light brown hair framed a small face that was pale under the station's bright lights, and her wide hazel eyes darted nervously, between strangers as if searching for something or someone to save her. She walked half a step behind the others, as though her legs wanted to stop, but fear forced them forward. Rex slowed first. The change was subtle, but Sarah felt the shift through the leash, a tightening of muscles, a sudden alertness. Shadow followed, his ears rotating back toward the family, nose lifting slightly as if catching a scent of distress rather than danger. Neither dog barked. They simply stared. "What is it, boys?" Sarah whispered, crouching slightly. Her hand brushed along Rex's spine, and she felt the tension humming beneath his fur. He was a living radar, and right now something invisible was shaking his instincts awake. Then she saw it. As the woman in black tugged the children forward, the little girl in red fell one more step behind, her small shoulders trembling. Her hand rose tentatively, almost fearfully, and she tapped 5 times on the woman's back. She paused. Then she tapped 5 times again, a cadence too precise to be accidental, too quiet to be meant for the woman who didn't react at all. In the roar of the station, no human heard it. But Rex stiffened, his tail going rigid. Shadow let out a faint, nearly inaudible growl, a vibration like a warning resting against Sarah's boot. Sarah's pulse flickered. She didn't fully understand what she'd witnessed, but she knew the signs. Fear that hides itself. Children who speak without words. "Something's wrong," she murmured. She rose again, tightening her grip on both leashes. She planned to steer the dogs away to avoid alarming anyone. But before she could even take a step, both German shepherds pulled forward at once, guided by pure instinct, muscles coiled with fierce determination. "Rex, Shadow, hey!" she hissed, trying to rein them in. But they would not budge. Their focus was absolute. Every part of their bodies pointed toward the little girl in the red coat. Sarah exhaled sharply. A decision settled over her, quiet but firm. "All right," she said under her breath. "We follow." And with that, the officer and her 2 K9 partners broke from their routine patrol and moved straight toward the child whose silent plea had awakened something only dogs could hear. The flow of passengers thickened as Officer Sarah Miller followed the insistent pull of Rex and Shadow toward the ticket gate. The warm breath of the station's heaters clashed with the sharp winter cold pressing against the glass walls, creating a hazy shimmer above the crowd. Sarah moved quickly but carefully, weaving through commuters while keeping her 2 German shepherds close. Rex walked stiffly, his tail rigid, muscles tight beneath his coat. Shadow moved lower, head angled, his body language sharpened into a predator's cautious prowl. Both dogs had switched from routine patrol mode into instinct-driven alertness, and Sarah trusted K9 intuition more than most officers trusted their radios. Ahead of them, the woman in the black coat, the woman Sarah had been watching, approached the ticket turnstile. Her name, Sarah would learn much later, was Dana. But for now she was only a silhouette cut sharply against the cold lights of the station. Dana appeared in her late 30s, her posture too stiff, shoulders tight as if permanently braced for impact. Her dark hair, wound tightly into a bun, left her face exposed, thin lips pressed into a straight line, eyes moving too quickly, scanning the crowd in a way that betrayed not nervousness, but calculation. The 3 children she guided moved like mismatched shadows beside her, especially the little girl in red. Lily, her red coat bright as a warning flare, walked with small, uneven steps as she was tugged forward. When Dana handed her tickets to the attendant, a young man with a round, unshaven face, his bored expression spelling out the monotony of morning shifts, Lily stumbled. The girl's small hand lifted again, trembling slightly. 5 taps on the woman's back. A pause. 5 more. The rhythm struck Sarah like a silent alarm, but it struck Rex and Shadow with far more force. Shadow tilted his head, letting out a soft growl vibrating through his chest. Rex's ears flattened against his skull, a deep, primal sound forming in his throat. Sarah stepped closer, her voice steady. "Ma'am," she called out, addressing the woman in the black coat. "Could I have a moment? My canines are reacting, and I need to check on something." Dana turned, and for the first time Sarah saw her clearly. Pale skin stretched taut over high cheekbones, eyes a shade too hollow to belong to a relaxed traveler. She forced a smile, but it was brittle like thin ice. "Officer, we're just trying to catch our train. The children are scared of dogs. You're upsetting them." But Sarah wasn't looking at Donna anymore. She was looking at Lily, whose hazel eyes flicked desperately toward Rex. The girl's lips moved, silent, fragile, forming 2 unmistakable words: "Help us." Sarah felt the air in her lungs still. She saw Lily's mouth open just slightly, but she didn't hear a sound. Rex did. The older German shepherd barked once, loud and sharp, the sound snapping through the thick noise of the station. Shadow stepped forward, half blocking the path around the turnstile, tail stiff, his stance protective. Passengers nearby turned their heads. Someone lifted a phone to record. A woman whispered, "Is something happening?" A man pulled his child closer. The air shifted from ordinary bustle to charged anticipation. Sarah felt the pressure building, but she held firm. She lowered her voice to Dana. "Ma'am, I need to see what's inside the black bag you're carrying. This isn't a suggestion. My dogs don't react like this without reason." For a flicker of a moment, something cracked in Dana's face, like a mask slipping. Her hand tightened around the bag strap, knuckles whitening. She exhaled sharply, and her forced smile melted into something sharper. Fear mixed with desperation. Then everything happened at once. Donna jerked Lily's hand, pulling her backward with startling force. The children gasped. Without warning, Dana twisted through the crowd, using the startled passengers as moving cover, dragging the children with her. Her movements weren't the frantic flailing of a panicked mother. They were practiced, precise, as if she had run before. Rex lunged first, Shadow half a heartbeat behind him. Rex's bark thundered through the ticket hall, stopping people in their tracks. Shadow cut toward the right flank, sliding between 2 passengers to intercept. Sarah ran, boots slapping the floor, her breath tight in her chest. She shouted, "Move! Police canines!" And the crowd parted in ripples of confusion and alarm. The screech of metal echoed from the platform beyond, a train braking hard, just arriving. Dana pushed harder, pulling the children dangerously close to the track entrance, her coat flaring behind her like a shadow trying to escape its own body. "Stop! Right now!" Sarah shouted. Dana didn't stop. Rex vaulted forward, muscles coiling, while Shadow angled in to cut off the escape path. The 2 dogs formed a moving barrier, one blocking the forward momentum, the other driving in from the side. Their training was precise, practiced, but their instinct was faster. Passengers screamed. The arrival train screeched louder, and in the frozen second before chaos fully erupted, Sarah saw Lily's terrified face turn toward her. Then everything collided. Dogs, passengers, the shriek of metal, and Sarah had to choose her next move in the space of one breath. The security screening room sat deeper inside Denver Union Station, far from the bustling crowds and the metallic screech of arriving trains. The walls were pale gray, illuminated by clinical overhead lights that made every shadow look sharper, every breath sound louder. Officer Sarah Miller pushed open the door, her jaw set, her mind still racing from the chaotic chase moments earlier. Her two canine partners, Rex and Shadow, trotted closely behind her. Rex steady and imposing, Shadow tense and restless, as if they could still feel danger clinging to the air like dust. Inside the room stood Officer Daniel Briggs, a broad-shouldered man in his 40s, with a trimmed beard peppered in gray. Deep lines framed his eyes, worn not by age alone but by a lifetime of night shifts, missed holidays, and years in narcotics before losing his partner in a botched raid, an event that carved a permanent heaviness into his otherwise calm demeanor. He greeted Sarah with a nod, glancing briefly at Dana and the children. "What's the situation?" he asked, his voice steady but rough-edged, like gravel softened by rain. "We've got a possible trafficking scenario," Sarah said quietly. "My dog's alerted. Strong reaction." Briggs's gaze shifted to Dana, who sat in a metal chair, wrists secured with soft restraints. She looked smaller here, away from the crowd, her black coat removed to reveal a thin, dark sweater clinging to her tense frame. Her neatly tied bun had loosened, strands of hair falling messily around her hollow cheeks. Yet beneath the disarray, her eyes burned with a frantic, feral intelligence, like someone who'd been running long before this morning. Across the room, Lily sat on a bench, still wrapped in her red coat, holding a worn brown stuffed bear to her chest. She looked painfully tiny against the cold walls. Her two companions, a boy around 10 and a girl of similar age, sat beside her, pale and silent, their expressions blank the way neglected children often learn to mask their fear. Rex and Shadow positioned themselves near the door, though their eyes kept drifting toward a black duffel bag placed on the inspection table. Both dogs stared at it with unwavering focus. Sarah knew that look. They were waiting for permission to react if needed. She approached the bag and glanced at technician Maya Ruiz, a petite woman in her early 30s with short, curly hair and sharp, observant eyes. Maya was known for her meticulous nature and near-photographic memory, traits that came from growing up with a father who'd been wrongfully accused, shaping her lifelong obsession with truth and evidence. She gave Sarah a quick nod. "I haven't touched anything yet." "Let's see what she's carrying," Sarah murmured. She unzipped the main pocket. The bag revealed mundane items at first. Folded clothes, snacks, a cheap wool blanket. Perfectly arranged. Too perfectly. Rex rose immediately, tail stiff as a metal rod. Shadow followed, ears angled forward. Sarah frowned and dug deeper. Her fingers brushed against something hard buried beneath the fabric. She pulled out an old, low-budget cell phone, its back taped shut with layers of aging gray tape. "No SIM," Maya said after a brief glance. "Probably used for one-way communication. Disposable." Shadow growled softly. Sarah opened the false bottom of the bag. A stack of documents lay beneath: passports, state IDs, birth certificates. Every photo showed the same face, Dana's. But every name was different. Every state was different. Every identity manufactured. Dana shifted in her chair, shoulders curling inward. "It's not what you think," she whispered, her voice thin as paper. Then a small white envelope slipped free, falling onto the metal surface. Sarah picked it up, hesitated only a second, then opened it. Inside were photographs of children, grainy images taken from distances, playgrounds, bus stops, grocery store parking lots. None of them were Dana's supposed children. Some faces smiled. Others looked terrified. All were marked with handwritten dates. The room went still. Lily stared at them. Her small arms tightened around her stuffed bear until the seams stretched visibly. Sarah knelt in front of her. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "can you tell me where she was taking you?" Lily's lips trembled. Her voice came out in a whisper. She said we were going to meet our dad." She swallowed hard. "But the kids before us, they didn't come back." Briggs closed his eyes briefly, jaw clenching. Maya's expression hardened, all emotion replaced by the cold efficiency she used to protect herself from cases that hit too close to home. Maya stepped toward a workstation and connected the phone to a forensic reader. "It has a hidden GPS pinging a location," she said, fingers dancing across the keyboard. "North Industrial Zone. Looks like an abandoned warehouse." The monitor lit up with a blinking red marker. Rex rose instantly. Shadow followed, emitting a low whine that almost sounded like urgency. Sarah felt a ripple of tension travel through her spine. She stared at the map, then at her dogs, both now fully alert, bodies directed toward the door as if they already knew where they needed to go. The warehouse was still blinking, still active, still waiting. Sarah stood, tightening her grip on the leashes. "We're going." Rex and Shadow moved in unison, turning toward the exit, as though already hearing the faint echoes of children's cries no human ear could yet detect. And in that silent, electric moment, the fate of more children hung between one blinking red dot and the instincts of two determined K-9s. Night settled over Denver's industrial outskirts like a heavy metallic shroud. Old warehouses lined the district in rows, their rusted frames towering like abandoned skeletons against the dim orange glow of scattered street lamps. The air smelled faintly of diesel, cold iron, and the lingering bite of winter wind. A convoy of police vehicles sliced through the darkness, red and blue lights flickering against cracked concrete walls, engines growling in unison like an approaching storm. Officer Sarah Miller stepped out of the lead vehicle, boots crunching on frost-covered gravel. Her long, slender frame was silhouetted against the flashing lights. Her ash-brown ponytail whipped softly in the wind. Her breath fogged in front of her as she scanned the deserted yard. Despite the layers of tactical gear on her shoulders, she felt the chill sink to her bones. Not from the cold, but from the certainty that time was running out. Beside her, Rex and Shadow jumped down, their paws landing soundlessly, their bodies immediately taut with alertness. Rex, older and heavier, stood like a carved statue of vigilance. Shadow paced in small arcs, nose twitching, tail held stiff behind him. Behind Sarah, Officer Daniel Briggs approached with his tactical rifle slung across his chest. His wide shoulders and thick beard made him look almost bear-like against the shadows, but his steady voice cut through the tension. "Buildings listed as abandoned," he muttered. "But dispatch says the GPS ping narrowed down to the north wing. If the intel's right, this is where she was taking them." Another officer joined them, Sergeant Nina Harper, a woman in her early 40s with dark copper skin and short, tightly curled hair tucked beneath her helmet. She was known for her no-nonsense attitude and icy composure, scars on her left forearm hinting at past encounters that shaped her into the hardened leader she was now. "No movement on the exterior," she said quietly, scanning the rooftop with a thermal monocular. "If they're inside, they're keeping low." Sarah nodded once. "Rex, Shadow, search. Both dogs lowered their heads and moved forward, guiding Sarah and the team toward a side entrance. Rex stopped first, ears sharp, breathing slowed. Body leaned slightly toward a corroded metal door scarred with years of neglect. Shadow pressed his nose to the base of the doorway, inhaling quick, nervous sniffs before giving a soft, warning growl. Sarah raised a hand for silence. Then they heard it. A muffled sob, tiny and thin, like a frightened whisper trapped behind metal. Briggs cursed under his breath. Harper signaled her team. 2 officers stepped forward with a breaching ram, muscles bunching beneath protective gear. The door burst inward with a sharp crack. Inside, darkness swallowed everything at first. Flashlights sliced through the gloom, revealing a room with peeling walls, broken crates, and a lingering smell of mold. In the far corner, 5 children huddled together, dirt smudged on their cheeks, eyes wide with fear, but glinting with a fragile spark of hope when they saw the police lettering on Rex and Shadow's vests. Rex approached slowly, lowering his body in a gentle arc. His tail gave a soft, controlled wag, an instinctive reassurance. Shadow crouched beside him, allowing one of the children, a trembling boy with tangled blonde hair, to reach out and brush a hand over his fur. "We've got them," Sarah said, her voice thick with relief. "Let's move." Officers swooped in with blankets, carefully escorting the children toward the vehicles outside. Sarah was about to follow when Rex suddenly froze mid-step, head snapping toward a back corridor. A low growl rippled through his chest. Shadow reacted instantly, bolting toward the same direction, nails scraping the concrete floor. Sarah's pulse surged. "Something's wrong! Briggs, with me!" They reached the corridor just as a black SUV roared to life outside the warehouse's rear exit. Its headlights flared, tires screeching as the vehicle lurched forward, trying to escape into the night. The engine rattled like a trapped beast, growing louder as it skidded across the cracked pavement. Sarah didn't hesitate. She unclipped both leashes with a single, practiced motion. "Go, Rex! Go, Shadow!" The dogs burst forward like arrows fired from a bow. Rex sprinted toward the driver's side, his powerful legs devouring the distance, while Shadow curved around to target the front of the vehicle. Their bodies were blurs, pure muscle, instinct, and training woven together. The SUV swerved, trying to shake them, but Rex leapt upward, jaws clamping onto the sleeve of the driver through the half-open window. The man cursed, jerking the wheel. The vehicle fishtailed violently and crashed into a chain-link fence, metal shrieking as it bent inward. Shadow lunged at the passenger door, standing guard with a warning snarl that echoed through the empty yard. Sarah and Briggs rushed forward. The driver stumbled out. A wiry man in his late 30s with sharp cheekbones, greasy dark hair, and an unshaven jaw. His eyes darted wildly, his entire posture that of a cornered animal. Briggs shoved him against the hood, snapping cuffs onto his wrists. The man let out a cold, bitter laugh. "You think taking me down changes anything?" he hissed. "You don't even know how many places we use." Sarah's stomach twisted, but she didn't let emotion show. The children were safe, yet his words lingered like a stain. Minutes later, a dispatch alert buzzed on Harper's tablet. She glanced at it, jaw tightening. "We've got a potential second location, unconfirmed." Sarah looked down at Rex and Shadow, both panting, both alert, both with eyes burning with the same silent question. Had they truly reached every child? The night offered no answers, only the cold wind and the echo of the man's mocking, warning drifting into darkness. The first hint of morning crept slowly across the Denver skyline, turning the once metallic night into soft stripes of gold and silver. The industrial district, quiet after the chaos of the night before, seemed almost unreal in the newborn light, as if all the fear, the chase, and the dark secrets torn from the shadows had been part of some fevered dream. But inside the Denver Police Department's central precinct, the truth settled into every corner. It had been a long night, one that changed lives. Officer Sarah Miller stepped through the station doors, shoulders drooping under the fatigue of a night without sleep. The same woman who had stood strong in the warehouse, tall, slender, fierce-eyed beneath the sharp angles of her ash-brown hair, now showed a rare vulnerability. Her eyes were rimmed in red from exhaustion, but the quiet pride beneath them remained steady. Rex and Shadow padded beside her, tails low but steps purposeful. Rex carried himself with a veteran's calm. Shadow, younger and hungrier, glanced around, as if still expecting danger to leap from the corners. Officers moved through the lobby like ghosts, tired, bruised, but relieved. Paper cups of lukewarm coffee passed from hand to hand. The overnight team had just finished reviewing the final pieces. The GPS data extracted from Dana's taped phone, the cross-checked IDs, the grainy footage stitched together from traffic cameras. The picture was now clear. This was the last active cell in Denver. Other locations linked to Dana's network had already been dismantled in previous operations. The city, at least for now, could breathe a little easier. Inside one of the waiting rooms, 5 rescued children sat wrapped in thick blankets, hot cocoa warming their small hands. A paramedic, a calm-faced man named Ethan Cole, checked on them one by one. Ethan was in his mid-30s, with sandy hair and warm brown eyes, the kind of eyes that made frightened children unclench their fists. Years ago, he had survived a tragic apartment fire that stole 2 of his siblings, shaping his quiet dedication to helping anyone, especially children, feel safe again. His presence was gentle, patient, and deeply grounded. Among the children sat Lily, her red coat draped over her shoulders like a shield she refused to part with. The color suited her, brave, bright, noticeable even in the darkest places. She held her stuffed bear tightly, occasionally glancing toward the hallway with a mixture of nervousness and hope. Outside the room, Agent Marcus Hale, a federal investigator with a stern jawline and a day's worth of stubble, finished briefing the team. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loosened, but the sharp intensity in his deep-set eyes showed a man who took this case personally. He had spent the last decade dismantling trafficking networks across state lines, driven by the quiet memory of his younger cousin, who vanished and was never found. "This cell's finished," he said, voice low, but certain. "And those kids are going home. All of them." Sarah let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. The words felt like the first warm sunrise after a long winter. A soft noise echoed at the front entrance, a hurried rush of footsteps. Sarah turned just in time to see Lily burst through the doorway, the red of her coat blazing in the morning light. Behind her came her parents, her mother with tear-streaked cheeks and trembling hands, her father with a rugged, broad-shouldered build and a thick, dark beard he hadn't trimmed in days. Their faces were etched with weeks of terror and sleepless searching. The moment they saw their daughter, all the fear inside them shattered into raw relief. "Mom! Dad!" Lily cried. Her parents crashed into a tight embrace around her, all 3 sinking to their knees. Her father's voice broke with every word. "We found you. We found you. Thank God, baby." Even the exhausted officers stepped back to give the family space. some blinking away tears they didn't bother hiding. Sarah smiled softly. Rex sat beside her, ears perked, tail sweeping the floor in a slow wag. Shadow, usually the more serious of the two, gave a small huff of excitement, stepping forward as if he wanted to greet Lily too. Lily pulled away from her parents just long enough to run to the dogs. She wrapped her arms around Rex's thick neck first, burying her face in his fur. Then she reached for Shadow, who stiffened in surprise before relaxing, allowing her to hug him tightly. The young German shepherd even leaned into her touch, something he rarely did with strangers. "You saved me," Lily whispered. "Both of you." Her father approached Sarah, his rough voice cracking. "Thank you. There aren't words." Sarah shook her head gently. "Your daughter saved herself. She knew how to ask for help." Just then, Investigator Hale approached with a small plastic bag. Inside was an old K9 badge tag, scratched, tarnished, and long retired. Sarah knelt beside Lily. "This belonged to Rex when he first joined the unit. He doesn't need it anymore." Her voice softened. "I think it belongs with someone brave." Lily's eyes filled with tears as she clutched the tag. "I'll never forget them," she whispered. "Ever." Rex nudged her hand, as if blessing the gift. Shadow pressed his nose lightly into her shoulder, accepting her sobs without moving away. Moments later, Lily and her family climbed into their waiting car. As it pulled away, sunlight finally broke through the clouds, washing the precinct in warm gold. Sarah sat on the station steps, stretching her tired legs. Rex rested his head on her knee, eyes half closed. Shadow lay beside them, triumphantly chewing on a donut a sympathetic officer had slipped him. "You didn't just protect lives today," Sarah murmured. "You gave something back, something they might have never gotten again." Above them, the American flag waved against the brightening sky. And in that quiet morning, a woman and two German shepherds sat like sentinels of hope, proof that heroes don't always stand tall or carry weapons or speak. Sometimes they simply listen. In the end, as the sun rose over Denver and the morning finally chased away the darkness, one truth shimmered quietly beneath everything that happened. Sometimes, God sends his miracles in forms we never expect, not in thundering voices or blazing lights, but in the gentle tap of a frightened child and in the loyal hearts of two German shepherds who listened when no one else could. Every single day in our ordinary lives, we pass by people carrying silent burdens, fears they cannot speak, pain they cannot name. And yet, somewhere in the noise of the world, God still whispers hope through small signs, a stranger's kindness, a helping hand, a choice to pay attention. Just like Rex and Shadow did. Maybe that's the real miracle. Not the lightning from heaven, but the courage, compassion, and protection he places inside ordinary souls, human and canine. If this story touched your heart, I invite you to share it so more people can feel the reminder that miracles still walk among us. Leave a comment about where you're watching from, or share a blessing for anyone who needs hope today. And don't forget to subscribe, so you never miss another story of grace, courage, and the quiet ways God shows up when we least expect it. May God bless you, protect your family, and guide your steps, today and always.